Welcome to the Old City Podcast. I'm your host, Rob Autry. You can find me on Facebook under Rob Autry. Also under Old City Vapors. And find the videos on YouTube under Old City Vapors. This is numero uno, number one, the first Old City Podcast. Hopefully many more to follow. That's the plan anyways. I am your host, Rob Autry, and this podcast is going to be just a little bit about it first, real quick. It's going to be kind of eclectic. It's going to be a little bit of true stories of the paranormal. It's going to be weird news from around the world. I try to focus a lot of it on my hometown of St. Augustine, Florida, and I do have a interesting little story to include about my hometown. Just weird stuff. You know how Florida is. Home of the crazies, right? I know. I can say that because I live here. Yeah, I'm probably crazy. Anyway, paranormal, weird stories. I'm an Uber driver, so who knows? I've got plenty of crazy Uber stories I could tell. And so who knows? It's going to be a little bit of everything. Hopefully you'll enjoy it. Instead of rambling on about it, let's just jump right in and start out with a little bit of weird news from around the globe. First one up, one-of-a-kind tomb unearthed in Egypt. A remarkably well-preserved 4,400-year-old tomb has been discovered in the ancient city of Saqqara. I think I'm pronouncing that right. But if I'm not, what are you going to do? According to Egypt's Minister of Antiquities, the discovery was announced on Saturday. Dates back to the rule of Neferkar Kakai, the third king of ancient Egypt's fifth dynasty. Its remarkable preservation is down to the fact that it has remained untouched since antiquity. Its interior, which measures 9 by 32 feet, is adorned with colorful statues and hieroglyphics. Archaeologists believe that the tomb is the final resting place of a royal priest and his family. The excavation of the tomb began back in November and is expected to continue into January. Okay, my thoughts on that are, pretty much everybody's been to a cemetery here. Granted, generally our tombs, our burial sites aren't as fancy as, Egyptian priests and whatnot. But I often wonder if several hundred years from now, people will be digging up our rotted carcasses and seeing, what we have left. I don't know. Sometimes I feel a little weird about that. It's like, it's where the dude was buried. And somehow, because it's, 4,000 years ago, it's like enough times passed we can dig him up and pull all the cool stuff out of his tomb now. Whereas if it had just been 25 years, well, that would be unheard of. That would be, inhuman. Anyways, what are you guys' thoughts on that? I know you got to learn about history and whatnot, but sometimes I just feel a little weird. Speaking of weird, here's another one from Australia. This one we covered the other night. I'm a co-host with Jason Bland on a show called Paranormal Soup, which airs every Sunday night. And it airs live on Facebook, and it will be simulcast on YouTube and probably be turned into a podcast, hopefully very soon. Anyways, you should check it out. It's called Paranormal Soup. Anyway, we covered this one the other night, and Andrew Isaacson had been visiting Australia's Cape Willoughby Lighthouse when this picture was taken. The unusual object was photographed at 4:25 p.m. on a Wednesday, December 5th of this year. Isaacson says, just when I stopped taking photos and moved the camera down, I saw something out of the corner of my eye. Whatever it was moved silently, and exceptionally quickly. That's hard to read. It wasn't until he started looking through the photographs that he had taken that day that he realized that he had actually managed to capture the object on camera. I'd be interested to know if anyone else reported a sighting that day, he said. The UFO was approximately 200 meters from the shoreline, and it's not thought to be a plane or helicopter. Now, I've looked at the picture, and you can see this picture if you want to go to unexplainedmysteries.com. You can see the picture. Just Google it. It'll come up everywhere. It's all over the place. I've seen the picture. Doesn't look like a plane. Doesn't look like a helicopter. It looks like a traditional flying saucer. And granted, it's a UFO picture, so it's a little blurry, like all of them. But it's actually, compared to a lot of them, it's pretty clear. Could it be a drone? It doesn't look like a drone to me. Honestly, it looks like a freaking UFO. I don't know. If you guys get a chance, go take a look at it, unexplainedmysteries.com, or just, like I say, Google it. It'll come up everywhere. So while we're talking about space, here's another one that I thought was interesting. Could be a little crazy. And let me, before I move from that UFO thing, this next one's not a UFO story, but it does have to do with space and space travel. But before I move from that UFO story, I'm hearing static. Before I move from that UFO story, there is, in today's age of Photoshop and this and that, anything can be faked, from Bigfoot to UFOs to, Mothman to the flying cat, you name it. It can be faked. One of our friends came up with the term digicabra, which, digital images of a chupacabra. So everything nowadays could be a digicabra. But with that being said, I could walk out in my backyard or my front yard, whatever, with my camera, look up and go, holy shizzles, it's a UFO. Big flying saucer right directly over my backyard. I could snap 1, 2, 10 photos of it perfectly clear, bring them back in, post them online. How many people would actually believe that it was a real UFO? It's, in this day and age of fake news, fake pictures, fake this, fake that, fake boobs, fake, everything. Who would actually believe that it was a UFO unless they were here with me? I would know. I would be the person taking the picture. I would be the one probably pooping his pants while taking the picture. But nobody else would believe it. The same with you. Anybody listening that, walked out, holy crap, took a picture of a UFO or, the Loch Ness Monster, Bigfoot, you name it, whatever. Fill in the subject, go home, post it on social media, send it to the news, whatever. You'd have 9 out of 10 people going, oh, that's fake. That's Photoshopped. That's a crock of shit, whatever. So, I don't know. Where do we go from here? How do we get out of that quagmire of fakedness? Is fakedness a word? It is today. Okay, speaking of space travel, SpaceX CEO Elon Musk has stated that there is a 70% chance that he will personally fly to Mars. The 47-year-old entrepreneur remains adamant that despite a high risk of death, he wouldn't hesitate if the opportunity for him to personally travel to Mars presented itself. Your probability of dying on Mars is much higher than Earth, he told Axios' Mike Allen during a recent interview on HBO. It's going to be hard. There's a good chance of death. Hey, no pain, no gain, right? You might land successfully, and once you land successfully, you'll be working nonstop to build the base. So, not much time for leisure. Even after doing all this, it's a very harsh environment. So again, there's a good chance you'll die there. Musk listened to the prospect of traveling to Mars. He likened the prospect of traveling to Mars to that of climbing Mount Everest or an explorer. The explorer Ernest Shackleton's ill-fated expedition across the Antarctic. There's lots of people willing to climb mountains, he said. People die on Mount Everest all the time. They like doing it for the challenge. Musk also remains optimistic. Man, the Musk and the optimistic is screwing me up. Musk also remains optimistic. Okay, I've gone full on retard. He remains optimistic about his company's timetable for sending humans to Mars, predicting that tickets to the Red Planet could become available for around $200,000 within as little as 7 years. Would you go to Mars? Would you pay $200,000 to go to Mars? If tickets were $2,000, I couldn't afford it right now. So, hell, if they were $200, I couldn't afford it right now. Whether he will be one of the first people to actually go there, however, remains to be seen. So, yeah, the question is, would you go to Mars? Do you have interest in going to Mars? What do you think about space travel as far as, civilians hopping on a plane, hopping on a rocket plane and say, hey, where are you going? I'm going to Mars for the weekend. I'm going to go grab a few drinks and try not to die because it is a harsh environment. But they do have water there. And who knows what else is there? What do you think? Has there been life on Mars before? Is there life on Mars now? I have a lot of questions. The truth is out there. I want to know it. I'm very curious. So, again, speaking of weird stuff, here's an interesting one. China and Russia modify Earth's atmosphere. The two world powers have reportedly been working together on a series of controversial experiments. Okay. Before we even get into it, it's already controversial because, as the headline said, they're modifying the Earth's atmosphere. I'm just saying, you screw that up, and we're all screwed. Just thought I'd put that out there. According to the Chinese scientists involved in the project, the two countries have been collaborating on a way to modify the atmosphere for military purposes. One of the several trial experiments carried out in June allegedly targeted a region of approximately 49,000 square miles above the Russian town of Vasilyursk in Eastern Europe. I probably butchered that name. Electrons were pumped into the atmosphere using an atmospheric heating facility in Vasilyursk, strange name, while Chinese electromagnetic surveillance satellite collected data from orbit. The experiment reportedly achieved a tenfold spike in negatively charged subatomic particles. Such alterations have a potential to provide distinct military advantages by disrupting satellite communications and manipulating the weather. Efforts to control Earth's atmosphere for such purposes dates back to the Cold War. It remains to be seen what China and Russia plan to do next with the technology. Okay. They're going to change the atmosphere for military purposes. What happened to the old-fashioned just, jamming the radar? Not good enough. Now we got to screw with the atmosphere, pump electrons up in it, screw everything up, tear a hole in it, and we all get sucked into a big, giant hole of hell. I don't know. I'm not totally down with screwing with our atmosphere. I don't know. And then, on top of that, they want to do it for military purposes and be able to manipulate the weather. I've often wondered, are we already manipulating the weather? There's a lot of weird things that go on around the world. Hell, just here in the United States, there's a lot of weird things that go on. Sudden storms that just pop up out of nowhere. I know, it can all be explained away. But are we screwing with manipulating weather right now? I wouldn't be surprised to find out that the answer is yes. Are storms getting worse than they were, in previous years? Are we getting more storms? Are we getting more, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, floods, fires? I don't know. You could lump them all in together. Are we getting more, or are we just more of them reported? Tsunamis, throw those babies in their tidal waves, whatever you want to call them. Depends on where you live. But if you live where there is one, I can pretty much tell you it's going to suck. But anyway, yeah, weather. Manipulating the weather. I can see the benefits. I live in Florida. I'm like in Hurricane Alley. So, hurricane's coming. Hey, manipulate that sucker back out to the ocean. That would be cool. But there's always that power trip of, Hey, things are slow. Hey, the economy's slow. Let's have a big storm and wipe out a bunch of stuff, and then, we'll have to rebuild everything, and somebody will have to buy all the supplies, and hey, the economy will be jamming again. I don't know. I don't trust it. I'm weird like that. So I'm like simple. Just let things be the way they are naturally. Anyway, I'll round this little news category up with one from my good old hometown, St. Augustine, Florida. There again, Florida. Weirdos, whack jobs, face-eating zombies. South Florida flacca. Drug-induced crazy zombies eating each other's faces and babies and whatnot. Well, here in good old St. Augustine, Florida man jumps into the St. Augustine crocodile exhibit. He was found wearing nothing but boxer shorts. Yeah. Jumped into the alligator pit and was found down the street in his underwear. Staff say they have surveillance video showing the unidentified man breaking into the alligator farm fully clothed. He then jumps into the crocodile exhibit. His clothes and Croc shoes, hey, at least, he was matching. He was wearing Croc shoes as he jumped into the crocodile enclosure. Croc shoes were found in the enclosure. He was later found wearing only his underwear. Okay, let's go. St. Augustine Alligator Farm staff became concerned Tuesday morning when they found pieces of clothing inside the zoo's Nile crocodile exhibit. They found the blood and clothing. Concerned staff called the police. They said the officers responded and said, we think we found your guy. Brandon Hatfield, 23, is in custody and he's facing charges of burglary, criminal mischief, and violation of probation, according to St. Augustine police. At around 7 a.m., officers got a call about a man in his boxers crawling in a woman's yard. When the officers found him, he was bloody and claimed to have been bitten by an alligator. Now, was it an alligator or was it a Nile crocodile? Fire and rescue was called to the scene and confirmed that the man had in fact been bitten. He was taken to Flagler Hospital. Police later arrested the man after staff at the St. Augustine Alligator Farm called police about an overnight break-in. The surveillance video shows the man inside the alligator farm, fully clothed and tight walking on a fence that surrounds the enclosure. You can see him walking around inside the crocodile enclosure, knocking down a statue. Like, damn statue, what's it doing in here? He also jumps into the crocodile pool. At least twice inside were 3 crocodiles. Police confirmed that the man at the hospital and the man in the video are the same person. Part of the video shows the man struggling in the water. A surveillance video expert says this is when the crocodile was biting the man, either on the foot or the leg. Parts of the struggle are obscured by obstacles in the video. Bummer. The fence the man straddled had the crocodile pit on one side, and on the other side there was a large lagoon with hundreds of alligators. They also say the clothing left behind included a pair of Crocs. Toxicology reports are still pending, but the St. Augustine police officers, they say he was probably high on something. You think? Maybe. Or was it just a lucid thought of, hey, what are you going to do today? I don't know. I think I'm going to get up like super early and go to the alligator farm and jump in the Nile crocodile pit, because there's a statue in there that's just been pissing me off for years, and I'm just going to go. I'm going to go knock it down, and but I am going to wear my Crocs, just in case. Be fashionable. Don't want to let the Crocs down. Anyway, I don't know. Stranger things have happened, but who knows? Did have a friend true story, friend that worked there. And years back, and he only has one arm. Yeah, job, dangers. Yep, the alligators took it. True story. Anyways, I don't know. There you go. There you have it with some weird news from around town and around the globe. I still wonder about that tomb in Egypt, not far from Cairo, whatever the Shakira. magical hips. I don't know. Anyways, I still wonder about the, opening of these tombs and stuff. I don't know. Would you guys want to open it? Yeah, everybody's curious. You want to look. But if it came down to doing it, would you be cursed? Would you get hit by lightning? Would you get eaten by locusts? Who knows? Only one way to know for sure is to go do it, I guess, and see what happens. But I don't know. I still feel weird about that in a way. But hey, I also visit cemeteries on a weekly basis too. So, but I don't dig up people or move anything or anything of the such. We do the weird ghost box thing, and we go to talk to them and check in. Just check in on them, let them know we're visiting. Me and my good friend, my paranormal compadre Sam. She's quite the spirit magnet, so we'll be doing some of that coming up on here. Some spirit boxing and whatnot. But hey, there you go. This is part of the first series of podcasts for the Old City Podcast.
How I have.
So that little segue of audio there, that was, speaking of ghost boxes, that was from an app called The Spiritus, which was designed by a friend of mine named Keith Weldon, Chill Seekers, out in California. And that app is available on iOS as well as Android, the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store. Pretty cool app. I use it quite a bit. That one, again, it's called the Spiritus. I also use one called the Necrophonic. And those two are kind of my two go-to apps right now. There's several others that I use, but those two are pretty cool. So speaking of ghost boxes and cemeteries and whatnot, a short little story here to wrap up this first edition of the podcast. As I mentioned before, my friend Sam and myself, we both are avid ghost hunters, paranormal researchers, ITC researchers, whatever you want to call us. We definitely do that a lot around here, pretty much on a weekly, sometimes a daily basis. And we're always going to the cemetery. We went out to the store earlier this evening and wound up driving through yet another cemetery, running the ghost box and taking pictures. That's just what we do. A little story about what happened the other day. Sam got up. We got up in the morning, and she was telling me about this dream. We've been, like I say, doing the spirit box, ghost box thing here all the time, and several names keep coming through. We went out to a cemetery where a lot of my family's buried, where my father's buried, my grandparents, my uncle, my aunt, a bunch of people that I know also buried out there. But my grandparents' name, their last name is Wolfe, W-O-L-F-E. And I drove through the cemetery. We'd been in a couple other cemeteries. Drove through that cemetery and figured, well, hey, I'll go say hi to my dad and grandparents and take a couple pictures. And we're sitting there and using the ghost box, and all of a sudden the name Wolf comes through the ghost box. Wolf. 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 Bunch of different voices, all saying the same thing. After 5, 10, 15 times of the name coming through, I thought, well, I got to record this because none of my family is going to believe me. And I'm sitting there, talking like having a conversation, but I was like talking to my grandparents, my dad, my uncle, my aunt, telling them hi, just seeing if anything would come through. And the name Wolf is just coming through repeatedly over and over and over again. I'm like, I got to record this. All my family's going to think I'm crazy, lunatic. So pulled out my recorder, my camera, and hit record. Nothing. No wolf name, no nothing. Just random stuff, coming out of the ghost box. So I'm like, all right, well, after, 3, 4, 5 minutes, I was like, all right, I guess you're not going to say it. You're like the cartoon frog, the singing frog. Gonna sing, put him in front of audience, ribbit, nothing. So I'm like, all right, you guys are screwing with me. I'm going to turn the recorder off. Not 2 seconds, not even a second after I turn the recorder off, you know what name came through, right? Wolf. Several more times. Yeah, weird. And sometimes I think they just kind of mess with you like that. They're like, let's keep him on his toes. Let's give him something to get brew on for the rest of the day. So who knows? What I eventually started to talk about there was my friend Sam. We got up the other morning. She'd had these dreams. And she was like, I have this dream about Mary Shade. And we ran some errands, and she's like, we got to stop by the cemetery. I just feel like somebody's calling me. It's like Mariana, something like that. We pull up in front of the cemetery that we frequent from time to time, right down the road from my house. And we pull up out front, turn the ghost box on in the car. Got, Bluetooth and all. It's playing through the car audio. Sounds real good. And we're asking, who, anybody got a message for us? Anybody got a message? 2 times in a row. Marianne comes out of the ghost box. So we're like, well, hey, you were dreaming it. That's the name. She's like, yeah, I feel like it's a tall cemetery marker, grave marker. And I'm like, yeah, is it kind of tall and narrow? And she's like, yeah, kind of like a church steeple looking thing. And so, she had the dream. I have this vision of what this this grave marker looks like. So we get out of the car. We open the gates to the cemetery. We go in. We're not in there more than 30 seconds. And she walks right up to this tall, narrow grave marker. And the name on it, Mary A. Shade. So how does that kind of stuff work? How does it work? Do the spirits, do they have some kind of telekinesis? Do they call out? Do they send you messages in your dreams? Is it all a bunch of hooey nonsense, rigmarole, whatever you want to call it? Do you believe it? I kind of do. There's always the skeptic in me that tries to, think of the logical explanation for things. But we've just had too many things happen that just coincidence, it would just be one hell of a coincidence over and over and over again. So I don't know. There you go. Going to wrap up this first edition of the Old City Podcast. And I hope you come back for more. Hope I have more. That's the plan. I'm going to try to do at least one of these a week. And who knows, maybe more. We'll see how it goes. Again, you can find me on Facebook under my name, Rob Autry. And you can also find me on Facebook under Old City Vapors. I'll be trying to update that page more. And also on YouTube, if you look on YouTube under Old City Vapors, VAPORS, you'll find my video page. There's, 300 videos or more on there. You can go look under the Weird Wednesday playlist. That's all the paranormal stuff. There's a little bit of all kinds of stuff on there. Started out as a vaping channel, turned into a paranormal channel, music channel, fishing channel, weird channel, eclectic, weird, crazy, psychopathic. I don't know, what do you want to call it? There's a little bit of everything on there. But if you're looking for the paranormal, look under the Weird Wednesday playlist. And that's where you'll find all the weird stuff, a lot of stories. And I'm going to recap some of those stories in the podcast because some of them need to be revisited, retold. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this first edition of Old City Podcast. And there'll be more to come. So thanks for listening. And we'll catch you on the flip side. Bye-bye.
It's